All right, let's dive in. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Health Made Simple show. I'm here with our host, Dr. Bart Precourt, who has been a healthcare practitioner for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including chiropractic, acupuncture, kinesiology, functional nutrition and supplementation, and lab testing, all out of his clinic, Balance Health Studio in Seagrove Beach, Florida, as well as virtually all over the world. He's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a cutting-edge health program for entrepreneurs and executives wanting to take their health to the next level. So he also works with celebrities and athletes all around the world. So we are super grateful to get our questions answered by you tonight.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be here. And again, this is an open forum. So my goal is always, Karen, that if people have questions, my goal is always to do the best I can to keep it really simple. That's one of the things I think that really helps us get healthy. I know it does for me. If we have things laid down, they're super, complicated, and you got to read 3 books just to come up with one simple answer. It doesn't work. So the goal is to simplify, make health simple tonight.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Well, as you said, we've already got some questions sent in. So should we start with number 1?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Dr. Bart, a speaker in a nutrition seminar said to take B12 at least 2 to 3 hours before or after taking any magnesium, or it prevents adequate magnesium absorption. Do you agree?
If I'm hearing that correctly, Karen, I think they're saying that they heard a speaker say that if you take B12, you got to wait a couple hours.
Yeah, prior to taking any magnesium. Otherwise, you don't absorb the magnesium.
No, and I'm sure there was a reasoning behind that, but my experience, the answer is no. And I'll explain to you why. So there could be a bunch of different reasons here. B12, you do need a very particular enzyme called the intrinsic factor in our gut. And technically, a lot of us, it's beat up. Like, it's hard for us to digest or absorb B12 because that intrinsic factor is only available in the body when we have a really, really low pH, like a really strong acid. So that, things like red meat and stuff like that, where we get B12 from, those are the issues we have digesting that. Yet magnesium being a mineral, you don't have to break it down per se. So it's readily to be absorbed. Calcium, magnesium, a lot of these other things that are minerals, rarely ever do we need to have a precursor to absorb them. So generally, I'm going to say no. If they're using some like weird or something that I've never heard of type of, B12 supplement, maybe, but just in general, I'd say no. And I guess, Karen, too, that's a good kind of lead back into the idea of consuming whole foods.
Yeah.
So when we're eating whole foods, we don't really have to always be thinking about food pairings and vitamin and supplement pairings. Most of the supplements that we provide or we talk about here in the show, you take them on an empty stomach, you can take them with food. It doesn't matter because they are food. So magnesium being its most important thing is that it has an available source of very bioavailable, very soluble calcium. That is really the only thing that we want to be mindful of when it comes to magnesium. So I would say for the person asking this question, my experience is not something you have to be concerned about, and you can go back to making life simple and not worry about, every, was it within the 2-hour window, the 45-minute window? Not in this scenario. I haven't heard that before.
Okay, awesome. And as you said, all the supplements that you use are whole food. So even though it is a supplement, it's made out of real food as opposed to synthetic materials. Is that right?
Yeah. So we really want to watch synthetics. And then, there's all different types of magnesium. There's like 9, 10, 11 different types. We use one called magnesium lactate, which makes it really what that lactate would just tell you that it's super, super soluble, very bioavailable. But there's others like magnesium oxide, which are not the case. Like maybe someone did some research on B12 absorption and magnesium oxide, which is already hard to break down. Maybe there's something like that, but if you're using a good quality source of magnesium and a high quality source of B12, I, again, rarely see an issue there.
Okay, awesome. Next question. C. Diff. Can it be cured via diet and supplements?
Yeah, the answer is yes. There's different levels to this, Karen. C. diff is an issue you can have in the gut. It's in kind of in that family of the funguses and the molds and all that. It's kind of in that family. The answer is yes. The simple answer to that, if you've been diagnosed with, so the best testing for this I typically find for C. diff is, we've talked about it here on that show before, something called the organic acid test. It's a real simple at-home test. It's phenomenal. It tests all the different funguses, molds, but even C. diff. Now, there are different levels an individual can have of C. diff. I see it very, very common. And most of the time, the strategies that we use, even for things like a fungus and a mold and a candida, which would really be intermittent fasting and a lot of garlic, will also benefit C. diff. And I don't mean to downplay it, because some cases can get, kind of a little bit more involved, but the average everyday case that we'll see, and I'll see a lot of it because it's available. It's present in a lot of people. Intermittent fasting, garlic, anything that cleanses and clears the intermittent fasting is going to be very important in getting the body.
This is an open forum.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No worries. We're going to get it out as much as can be. Again, I love garlic in these scenarios because it just works as that natural killer. So that's a simple place to start. There's probably more you can do to that. And we've talked about more, like even like the candida protocols here. And then that is a scenario too, Karen, that if you do have a bad case of C. diff, reach out to someone like myself or another functional, nutritional coach that can walk you through those steps and make sure that, one, you've analyzed it properly. You didn't just do, just kind of come up with it, that you make sure you get it tested properly, and then also know how to test in the back end of it so you can make sure that you can clear it out of the body. But if it shows up a little bit, like if you've run, if this individual is asking the question, if they did run like an organic acid test and it's one of the things that showed up, it's not a super high concern because this is something you can clear out.
Okay, awesome.
I should just add there, this is a scenario that once we clear the gut out, like we've killed it, we've cleared it, we got to regrow it. And this is definitely a scenario where the timing and the proper probiotics become very important.
Okay. And we went through all that. Maybe I'll find our episode. We did an episode all on the gut.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So we can have a look at that. Okay, cool. Next question. I have a hairline fracture in my left foot. Is there something that can help it heal? I have thin bones, so the x-rays don't show it well.
Yeah, absolutely. So nothing wrong with having thin bones. There's that by itself, there's nothing wrong with that. So sometimes when we take an x-ray, if you're thin boned, part of being able to see the x-ray better, your bones x-ray, is really the technique that the technician uses. So you can have as thin bones you want, but so there's different techniques they can use it. But if you have a hairline fracture, technically you have a broken bone. I know we call it a hairline fracture, but it's a split bone. So yes, and so we want to be very specific how we do this. The first thing you want to get, well, if you want some recommendations from me, anyone that comes in fracture, and again, I'm not acting as your doctor, right? That whole disclaimer here. I'm not diagnosing anything tonight. I'm not treating anything, but in the event that you wanted to help your body function better so you can heal up a fracture better, one of the things that I would typically recommend is something called Ostrophin PMG. It's the protomorphogen for bone. So that is first and foremost. Take 2 on an empty stomach twice a day. And we want to make sure that we do that so we can get all the way out to that tissue. And then we want the fundamentals, a super soluble source of calcium. And there's a couple different ways. There's really one I love that we use. It's called Calcifood. And these are chewable little wafers. This would be very similar. This is a little bit different than what I just mentioned, something about like calcium lactate. These Calcifood wafers, you can get it in a powder form as well. This is what I'll use when people have like a lot of osteoporosis and stuff like that. It's even more ionizable to the bone than just normal calcium is. So we want to do that. You want to get off sugar. You want to get your gut healing as fast as it can be. And I'm saying all the things that make you a healthy human being to help heal up. And then the other part, if it's in your foot, this is kind of like a no-brainer, but you want to stabilize it. In a short period, in that short period is the first 14 days is important. By the 14th day, your bone has sent all the remodeling for that tissue that it's going to do, unless you refracture it. So what that means is what you're doing in that 14 days, and I say stabilize it, it doesn't mean you can't put some weight on it. What I would suggest is that you're not really wearing like flip-flops, maybe a pair of tennis shoes where it absorbs and spreads out some of the force. But a little bit of movement helps something called the piezoelectric effect, which is really how bone remodels to stress. It's pretty cool. So if we have a little pressure, but not too much, your body go, oh man, there's an instability here, and it'll start the healing process faster. And if you have the nutrients in the body to do it, you'll heal amazingly. But by 14 days, whatever your body was going to do to heal that bone, it's done. Now, after that is just stabilization. So think about that 14 days is when you want to be really smart. And, if you think that you did something in that 14 days that might have rebroke it, start the clock again. But Ostrophin PMG, there's another one, Karen, that I would super recommend, and it's called Ostarplex. I know these are weird names.
Ostarplex.
Ostraplex. Ostarplex.
Okay, let me find that one for you, because she's followed up here. The foot's swollen.
Okay, so the foot swollen. Here's the cool thing. Let me just talk about swollen stuff for a moment. So your body has this like fraction. Let's just say that it's in like the outer edge of your foot. That's typically where most of these hairline fractures take place, in the fifth metatarsal down there, metatarsal, carpal, one of those, the outside part of your foot. And when that fracture happens, the body then walls it off. And it says, man, we got a problem here. And in that inflammatory tissue, and this is why it's so important that we help facilitate inflammation and not always force it out of the body. So in this scenario, that inflammation is literally bombarding your brain with messages. We need more tissue. We need more osteophytes. We need more tissue. We need more calcium. We need all the vitamins, the minerals, the trace minerals here to lay down new tissue. And that in that swelling right there, that's the body's innate response of saying we need some help. So it's kind of important for that swelling. It also keeps us in check. Like, it's not comfortable. So it's telling you visually and physically, hey, listen, don't beat me up right now. Let me be a little bit. So we don't want, as much as even we talk about inflammation being like not good thing. When inflammation is supposed to be there because we've damaged a joint, this is something that's it's a non-invader. We've damaged something in our body. We need inflammation to call the proper stores of nutrition there. So make sure you stay super, super clean, right? So you're watching the Health Made Simple show here. So I assume that you got a pretty good diet. You're doing some intermittent fasting. And the cool thing about intermittent fasting, your weak cells will die off faster. And that's how we remodel. We kill off the weak ones, replace them with new ones, and you become like Superman or Superwoman.
Love that. Awesome. Very cool. All right. Next question. I'm thinking of getting an infrared sauna. What are the benefits, and do you consider it a good health investment?
There's a big yes to this. So I definitely think that infrared saunas are a great investment. And that's really what I consider it as. They cost several $1,000s. I usually do recommend the good ones, but this is something that you might have 5, 10 plus years. I probably would still have my original one if I didn't keep changing locations and then just kind of it up. But so enough where my wife and I have had one for, a good 10 plus years now. And there's so many health benefits. So infrared sauna is really what we're talking about. The company, there's a lot of good companies out there, Karen. The company I use, and I have no affiliation with them, it's called Sunlighten. Sunlighten, yeah. You can find them on the internet. They continue to put out a good product, continue to improve upon what they have. Their technology is fantastic. They're good looking pieces of equipment, but there's a lot of stuff. I would say for women especially, I love this for breast health, for lymph flow, and ultimately the infrared sauna. It's not super hot, so if people aren't familiar with it, a typical sauna, you'll go in at a spa or something, it might be close to 200 degrees, sometimes more. Yeah. And you walk in and you can feel like, whoa, it hits your body. It takes a lot of energy to immediately try to cool your body off against that heat. And that's where you sweat. It's also very draining. So that's not real conducive to doing 3 days a week because you're going to be drained after a sauna session. Infrared sauna doesn't feel that way. And typically temperatures will get up to between 130 and 150 degrees. And slowly but surely that heat is penetrating within your body. That's the infrared. And then it bounces off the cells and makes those cells essentially, it's almost like they're flexing the cells or squeezing those cells. So you detox from the inside out. So everything from legit weight loss to getting rid of stuff out of your fat cells to breast health, lymphatics, to bumping up your immune system. You, in those moments, and again, I don't necessarily recommend them when you're like really, really sick. I know some people disagree on that, but you are essentially creating a little bit of a false fever sometimes because you're creating the heat from within. And there's nothing wrong there. We're killing off bad guys. So I can go on and on, but my answer is thumbs up. Yes, I love infrared sauna. I think it's a great strategy and it's a nice piece of furniture in your house. Something like that. Yeah.
Awesome. And so you use it 3 times a week? How often are you using it?
I would love to tell you that I've been using mine 3 times a week. I have not been, but there are times I definitely do. And when I get in that rhythm again, I swear, I'm like, why did I ever stop this? And we're only talking about 20 and 30-minute sessions. And the more frequently you do it, here's the cool part. One of the signs that it's getting better and better, you'll start to sweat faster and faster. Sometimes people won't sweat until that 25th minute. Then boom, they'll sweat, 5, 6, 7 minutes, and then they're getting out, 30 minutes. So, and then you'll find that your body gets cleaner and cleaner. Of course, you're going to use your electrolytes and stuff like that. 3 days a week would be phenomenal. If you did it more, I don't think there's any problem with that. But like anything else that we're going to do physical, let yourself build up stamina to do it.
Yeah.
Where if you just get in it and you start doing it, 5, 6 days a week, you might actually have a little reverse effect there. We might wipe you out a little bit.
Okay. We got a follow-up question for that on the chat. What about cryotherapy? Sorry.
Cryotherapy, which is really freezing. So just the polar opposite. Absolutely love it. The only thing with this, like the actual machine's super expensive. Now put another 0. So if an infrared sauna might run you, $3,000 to $5,000, this will cost you $30,000 to $50,000. So you don't have that in many people's homes. And then you need like nitrogen tanks and all that kind of stuff. But super good therapy, Karen. So what they've done with the technology now, you basically go into most of them are stand up and your head will be on the outside of them. And they close you in almost like a suntan booth kind of thing. And just 2 to 3 minutes. And they drop the temperatures down super, super, super freezing. So you're literally just kind of, you're shocking those cells. Just the opposite, but it's still a flexion of the cell. This time you're contracting it. And your cells are going to squish things out. And it's phenomenal. And what it can also do is your fat cells, it stagnates them. And so they originally came out for a lot of people as weight loss like protocols.
Yeah.
Seen so much more use to them in terms of, reducing inflammation, stopping cytokine storms and all this stuff. And then if you don't have that, or you don't have access to it in your town, ice bath. And super hard, but worth all the talk that everyone talks about. When there are people that are doing it and they're like, yes, this is a game changer. Yes, they are. Yeah. That's the inflammation we want out. That natural way of reducing the inflammation and not letting that inflammation continue to surge through the course of the body. So again, 2 totally different things. One's heat, one's essentially cold. One's hot, one's cold. Both super, super beneficial for the human body.
Okay. I think I'm going to go with the sauna myself. But what about if we're talking 3 days a week for the sauna, same with an ice bath, if people want to do that, or is it people can anytime it's good?
Literally anytime is good, but 3 days a week. And again, both of these are going to stretch us in tapping into that hormesis. Hormesis, again, the natural state of stress that makes us stronger. And the ice baths and the cryotherapy absolutely fall into that category where we're intentionally stressing the body. I do not recommend, especially the ice baths and the cryotherapy, I don't recommend it for people that have like significant adrenal issues, literally, because it is stress. It is stressful for the body. And if your adrenals are already, pushing it, Not super good idea. I don't recommend, and same thing with the ice bath. I'm not a favor. I don't recommend to my clients that they get in there if they get a flu or a fever, if they're already fighting something off. I try to use this as a strategy to get stronger versus as using it as a frontline defense.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. What about, sorry, we've got some follow-up questions from this one. Can you do both during the same week? What about alternating hot and cold?
Yeah, now we're talking. Yeah.
All right.
You absolutely can. Like it's no different than going from a hot pool to a cold pool. We can, and a lot of, like, so yes, that is really maximizing the state of hormesis. You're going from hot to cold and then from cold to hot. So either way, it's stressful. And that is what we're trying to do, intentionally put the body under stress and make it use its natural capabilities of healing to adapt to that stress, make an adjustment, and then execute. And so if you're doing that, and I'm sure that there's people listening to here or listening to this, they're like, yeah, I do this. And that's kind of no different than like exercise and getting a cold shower, or exercise, jump in a cold pool. Down here in Florida, there's just nothing cold. So you like during the winter, I went to the pool, and that's what I was using as kind of my ice bath per se. And it can be that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a particular degree in the beginning. We're talking about creating that variation. Sorry for the pause there. The goal is that we're creating that variation where the body has to adapt. And that's the biggest value of them both, is that the more we can help our bodies become great at adapting to stress, because some of us have some stress occasionally, but the better we can adapt to any form of stress, we're better adapting to all forms of stress.
Love it. I think we could all use that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Do you have any recommendations for what is the best bed?
Yes, I do. I'm surprised. I often get this question all the time, and I haven't gotten a little bit, but absolutely. So bed health is huge, like many things. And I'll take this on two different levels. One, you're going to spend probably more time in your bed than any one area in your life.
Yeah.
So we just talked about a sauna being a big investment or an important investment. Your bed is an investment, one of the more important ones you're ever going to do. So, and it needs to be to some degree like something you look forward to. It needs to have the comfort, et cetera. So the other challenge that we have with bedding is the toxicity levels. They use so much flame retardants now and other chemicals, so the beds don't cause, that they're literally just rampant in chemicals. So in my answer is also going to be finding a company that either uses no chemicals or very, very little chemicals. And this is important. I'll tell you who it's most important for, Karen. All my women out there who are borderline menopause.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, if the bed holds heat with chemicals in it, man, it's a time bomb every night. So it's the polar opposite of what I'm saying. I want that to be your oasis. It becomes your like, oh my God, I'm going to bed and I'm going to have that hot flash, etc. And a lot of those hot flashes, remember, they're always the hot flash. I know we're sidetracking here. Always is a liver issue, and it always means it's trying to detox. But if it's taking in chemicals all night long, and it is, there are some really, really disturbing studies out there showing that 100% of women with breast milk, like trying to feed their babies, 100% has flame retardants in it. Yeah. And those flame retardants come from two primary areas, beds and clothing. So with that being said, do I recommend a certain particular bed? Yes. And this bed is in a company called IntelliBed. Enough where I don't say I didn't work with them. I own two of them. They're not cheap. I'll tell you this, they're the heaviest beds I've ever had to move in my life. So I don't heaviest, okay. Physically heavy, like a good queen or good king size bed for like, a good strong man like myself, right? You can figure it out. You can figure it out. But one of these things, king size, one person, not happening. Just not happening. The material it's made of, it's almost like it's completely different. They don't use all those flame retardants. They have these, they're almost like rubber cells. I can't even describe them that well, but it gives you the sensation of almost like a Tempur-Pedic bed without the chemicals.
Okay.
They don't
Nice.
sag, they don't dip, they don't, we've had them for years and they don't like have divots and stuff like that. So absolutely positively love them. It's called IntelliBed. And I am an affiliate with them. So they do. So if everyone wonders, like I'm not like a spokesperson for them, but like they do, if we recommend someone, you can use a discount code there. And Karen, maybe you could put it in the link there. If anyone's hunting down for a bed, there's a link. I think it's Dr. Precourt 62, but it's IntelliBed and there's a link there. Fantastic company. We've had ours probably 10 years. We like that one for the other room. When all the dogs kick me out of the one room, I get to go to the other room and have a good sleep. Yes.
Nice. Love it. All right. Yeah, I've put the link and the code in the chat if anybody wants to check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here. I will soon be 53 and I've experienced some perimenopause symptoms for a few years. What are some things I should do or not do? And what are supplements I should take to help prepare my body and embrace the changes that will soon be taking place?
Beautiful question. So 53, welcome to the 50s. Awesome. So right away, I'm going to tell you this. Right away, starting tomorrow, I wish I could ask our audience, because I know there are people that would know the question. Like, so the number one thing you got to do the moment you enter, once you get into perimenopause, the number one thing, you must support your adrenal system.
Okay.
First, this is priority. And we'll get into like cleaning up your diet, because here's what's going to happen. In a moment or two, whatever that might be, and if you're 53, you could have been in perimenopause for several years. And just for people to understand, perimenopause is when really things start to go different. The cycle comes at a little different schedule. You might get some in the middle of the month. The schedule's not 28 days. It's on and off again. You might skip a month, and literally this can go on for 10 years. And this hormone wave, this imbalance is real. And exactly that. It's kind of like your ovaries are going to work and then they're taking 3 days off. They're going to work for 7 days and they're taking 2 days off. And this is why you feel this influx of hormones and changes and emotions and body changes. So the key here, Karen, is that when they go on vacation, they expect someone else to do their job. Okay. They still got to run the business. All right. So think of this, you got yourself a business and your business is your body. And your ovaries are about to go into retirement for good. They're not coming back to work, but they still have jobs that have to get done. Things like make progesterone. And that will take place. The little itty bitty bit that a female needs in menopause will take place over in the adrenal glands. But if the adrenal glands are already tapped out, meaning that they're already taking on the world stresses, you're overwhelmed and underprepared. If all of that's going on and your nutrition isn't good, then when you get there, it's not menopause, it's helipause. So the first priority, we start with supporting the adrenal glands. And I usually like to do two things. There's a product I would use right away. I would just say Drenamin. That is the nutrient support. That is supporting your everyday adrenal glands. So that's all there's vitamin C, there's a little bit of zinc, there's iron, there's copper in there. That's the protomorphogen for the actual gland. So it's a beautiful, beautiful product. 3 of them twice a day. The herbs that I'd like to use in this scenario, if you're saying, all right, I don't really have a massive adrenal issue right now, I definitely under stress, I would start to use, we have something called an adrenal tonic. This is a phenomenal product. It's a combination of 4 different things. Ashwagandha, which would be a great choice. Rumania, great choice. Echinacea for the immune system, and licorice root for both your adrenal glands and your thyroid. So if you started taking those 2, that would be a good start. But I'm not done.
So your adrenal tonic is something that you make up, or is this a link that they can?
That particular one, Karen, they can get directly through. If you guys give them a link, it's called Adrenal Phytosynergistic. I don't have a bottle here. I usually do. but if you look it up, it's a tonic. So it's like, if you can find it, let me know. If not, I'll figure out how to put it in the notes there somehow.
Okay.
So that would be one thing if you're headed toward menopause. The other thing is liver support. Absolutely, positively, you got to start cleaning the liver out. And the simplest ways is milk thistle every day, just 2, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And then anything you else can do, super high cruciferous vegetable diet, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale. I'd start to clean the body out. I'd get used to a fasting schedule that was anywhere between 12 and 16 hours. Start to get your sleep patterns better. And that might already be getting a little funky. But if you can get, always preparing yourself for sleep, because if your ovaries retire and your adrenals are already like overwhelmed and you're not getting your rest, don't want to live with you. Nope.
Got it.
And know that there's nothing wrong with you, and that this is part of the natural part of life. The part that feels so bad is that we're so out of balance. So the goal is just think like, all right, all these good things I could do, what should I get back into the rhythm of doing? So that's really the goal. And there's more, of course, there that would go with that. But the number one thing, get your diet cleaned up, support your liver, support the adrenals, support the adrenals, support the adrenals.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. I put the rest of those links. We might follow up on that adrenal tonic. Not sure it's on the Standard Process website. So we can follow up and put that link in there. Okay. Awesome. Someone's just asked on Facebook, whereabouts are you in the States, and can they see you in person?
Absolutely. I am in the number one state in the country, which is Florida. Yeah.
Okay.
Right over the best beaches in the entire country, which is the Florida Panhandle. About 100 yards right over there. And yes, you absolutely could come see me if you ever come down here and you happen to be in Florida. We are in Seagrove, Florida, and we'd love to have you. We'd love to meet you. So anytime you're here, you're welcome to come on in. And if for some reason a trip to Florida doesn't work for you, we also do virtual. So Karen, we do a lot of, just like we're doing now. We do virtual appointments where if we have, if you want, where they can dive in, they can contact the office, we can order labs, I can review labs for you. We can really go anywhere we need with it as if we're face-to-face, but we just do it virtual, just a one-on-one.
Awesome. All right. I put the contact details in the chat for you guys. All right. Next question. Stretching. Should we be doing this before or after exercise?
So great question. And I think sometimes we confuse this up a little bit. So I'm going to say that both is the answer. Yet let me clarify a little bit. I think traditionally, at least here in the States, Karen, and it's really interesting because I learned a lot when I was with my wife's US Olympic team. We're over in England at the World Cup, and I got some time to spend with the Aussies, you guys.
Oh, yeah?
And they're coaching.
Lucky you.
Yeah. And well, in field hockey, they've always been like top 1 or 2 in the world. They were just like, that's their gig. Like they're the best. So it makes sense sometimes to look at what the best is doing and say, what are they doing that we're doing differently?
Yeah.
So, and especially as a healthcare practitioner. So just a little FYI in that, like a good strategy for the world to take right now would be, what are all the people that are healthy and surviving COVID doing? Like that would be a really smart thing to do instead of the other cases, but nonetheless. So I'm linking this back to stretching in a moment. So I remember one time watching them warm up, and this changed with the US team over time because they were pretty quick to like adapt and be like, hey, look what they're doing. The US team would be often like on the ground doing what we call static stretching their hamstrings, like stretch and hold. Not the Aussies. They'd be doing like weird things, like dancing with their arms up and swinging around and like light jogging and doing things. They were warming up what I would call doing dynamic stretching, ballistic type stretching, moving their body to increase flow in the body. The spinal flow, Karen, I have no idea if you could be able to link our spinal flow on here. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason and how I developed that spinal flow is saying I didn't want to develop a static stretch for people, especially with their spine. We wanted to keep the blood and movement in synergy. My wife teaches, we have a yoga teacher training school, and it's a vinyasa yoga program. And one of the reasons that it's always been so close to our hearts, why this is such a like, and I love all yoga, but one of the reasons we've always loved that because it meant to move with breath. That's what vinyasa meant. So it was an active one posture to the next posture, and it was a flow. It literally is a flow. Warming your body up in flow is the safest and best way to do it. That spinal flow to start our day, pretending that the game is the day, warming up like that, moving your body, lunges, body weight squats, limbering up your arms. Not a lot of resistance though, but just limbering up and moving all of the body parts that you're about to use in the game. So you literally want to, you might in martial arts, we'll do a lot of like somersaults and stuff like that. We roll so the body and the spine get used to all those different types of movement. So dynamic stretch. I'm not saying everyone has to do like somersaults, but stretching and moving, limbering up. And then afterwards, the key is this: post-exercise, especially for my peeps out there that are doing very specific things like running and spinning on and up. If you're doing those, then you've got to then do dynamic type of stretching that limbers those specific body parts that you used back out. And that's the law. That's the imbalance part, Karen. And as a runner, I think you know that, right?
Yeah.
The challenge here is that when you're done exercising, most of the times you ran your 5 miles and you were like tapped out at 5.
Yeah.
And like the limbering up is
You're
not
speaking the truth. Yeah.
So you can use anyone who's doing that. If you want something that's light, gentle, very harmonistic, opens up all the kinetic chains in the body, that spinal flow, that video, that simple spinal flow will open up those hip flexors, lengthen the front part of the body. But absolutely, the post one is making sure your exercise isn't causing you problems down the road. Your pre-workout is making sure you don't have problems exercising. So it really should be part of it all. And listen, as you get closer to 40 and 50 and 51, you realize the super value of both. The hardest I find for most people is post.
Yeah.
One that's most skipped and maybe the most detrimental, because we usually go from like that run, that spin, whatever it might be, into our car, then into our desk. And that's where it gets really challenging.
Oh, who does that?
No one.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of both. And that's, again, that's where we support. We're going to make sure that we are, even on a nutritional level, that's where those essential fatty acids, cod liver oils, the turmeric fortes, those for pre and post are phenomenal because they help facilitate the inflammatory process. And that's what helps our bone, our muscles, our tendons, muscles, and joints continue to have that flexibility and that mobility. Because if we can get the inflammation back out or facilitate it properly, we can get the new nutrients in, and then they work just fine.
Yeah, awesome. And we've got Diane on Facebook here saying that she loves the spinal flow and does it every morning. So we love to hear that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And so do I. I still do my spinal flow every morning. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, I'm going to put the cod liver oil and the turmeric in the chat here for you guys too, because they're kind of part of your foundational supplements for people to take anyway, right? Yeah. Regardless of what type of exercise you're doing.
Yep. And again, those are two different mechanisms, but both help facilitate the inflammatory process. I don't get like turmeric for gut inflammation. Awesome. Like it works phenomenal. For post-exercise, phenomenal. In fact, you can even use the turmeric pre, so it's already taking place and you're facilitating faster. I'll take copper turmeric before I get my massages.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I know it sounds kind of strange, but when we get massage, you're wrestling up and pushing your lymph tissue. So it's not uncommon that when people get a massage, they may get a little runny nose or something like that, because we're helping push those toxins. The turmeric will not only relax your muscles, but it'll also help facilitate the actual inflammatory process to get those toxins back out. So it's just been, it's almost relaxing to the muscles to have that herb there. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's keep going. Dr. Bart, any tips to help with bedwetting?
Yes. Yeah, so there's a couple of things here. Bedwetting is a lot more common than people think, all the time. Or, yeah, I would say one way or another, if you're a parent and your child is going through bedwetting, hang in there. This too will pass. You can help facilitate this, and there's usually two kind of like root causes of it. One, unknown, that has to be at least thought of and addressed, is parasites, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. I never thought, never knew that.
So parasites, for the most part, are nocturnal. If your child is bedwetting, they may not know this. They're probably a deep sleeper, and that's part of it. But you might want to ask them, do they ever have like itchy anus or itchy butt at night? And those are just signs that there could be parasites around. But if I have a bedwetting case, almost always I say, listen, it is so helpful and so easy to get rid of parasites. Let's just do it, because it's so beneficial and it's not harmful. Like there's no like drug, it's not we're using a drug or anything like that. So I'd always address that, and you could always talk to your practitioner about that. And then almost always involved is that child is stuck, or adult is stuck in sympathetic dominance. The body's almost like this stuck in this fight or flight mode. And then it's coming in and out of it. And then when it drops out of it, that's when the body, like they're peeing in their bed. It should be being able to teeter back and forth between parasympathetic and sympathetic activity, but that's not taking place. So we want to support the body and give it the minerals that the body uses to get back into parasympathetic activity. So I use something called Min-Tran. Okay. Typically in these cases, Karen, there's often that child, like in their history, if I get chatting with the mom or dad there, often they've had like night terrors in the past. They've had some other funky things going on during their sleep. They've always had like, they're uncomfortable. They have to run into their parents' bed, just kind of like stranger things. These are all signs that there's something funky going on. So to support the parasympathetic activity of the body, real simple, it's called Min-Tran. You need a fair amount to really be effective here. So I typically, even for a youngster, I'll give them about 5 at night. Adults, I'll go all the way up to like 10. And it's very, very supportive and just getting a nice, deep, balanced sleep. And it's kind of like a chill out. They're just minerals, but they'll support the body in helping to chill out a little bit. So super, super effective there. And then if they want to do, it's real simple. If they want to clear out parasites, you can talk to your practitioner. It's really no big deal. The kids have parasites? Yes, all the time, nonstop. Yeah. You're good. Wormwood complex is what I use there. And then, so anytime you kill them, you got to clear them. And then I use something called Zymex 2. And Zymex 2 I use for 30 days. And then the wormwood I use for 10 days on, 10 days off, 10 days on.
Okay. Zymex, did you say 2? Yeah. Okay.
Zymex 2, yeah. So it's Zymex. Yep.
Got it.
And even if they didn't have them, you would just clear things out that didn't belong there.
So it wouldn't hurt you anyway.
Not at all. Wormwood's an amazing herb.
Okay, awesome. All right, I've got that in the chat for you guys. Okay. Next question. Any suggestions at being overwhelmed at the world events right now? What to use and how to handle this?
Overwhelmed at the world. Who's overwhelmed? Wow, it's really a great question. So listen, I'm going to make light of it just a little bit. So here's what I want to take away from this. So listen, I think everyone listens to this. You and I, Karen, like we could go like off on a tangent right now of like, wow, like all this stuff. Did you hear this? Did you hear that? We got to put a time out in that for a second. And here's what we're going to do with the overwhelming. So we're going to say 3 significant things. 1, we got to start the day with gratitude. We can't get by. We can't. It's getting harder. And listen, when you're getting out of balance, when it's hard just to come up and be grateful. And if you're there right now, know that your brain is working in a mode of a fight or flight, a survival mode, a fear mode. If you can't even figure out how to get into a state of gratitude. So that's number 1. Check your tribe. Yeah. Tribe is what is going to help you get through this. and you got to look at the tribe you should not be participating in. And I'll give you an analogy in just a moment here. And then there are 2 herbs that I'm going to recommend. One is called Ashwagandha. Ashwagandha Forte is something probably most of us would benefit on a daily basis, Karen.
Yeah.
One supports the hypothalamus, which is the mother of all our hormones. It helps our adrenal glands, and it's going to help us, instead of hitting that like high, that peak of like wound up, stuck in fight or flight, it's going to calm that down a little bit. So I call it the Disney in a bottle. And it's just another good example. Listen, we got more going on. It's just a good, smart strategy to give your body more. Not wait until it breaks down. Not wait until you start to develop, like legitimate day-to-day anxiety and maybe even having some, like panic attacks. And this is real. I unfortunately still getting those phone calls and those messages on a daily basis. So it is real. It's happening. It's not for good people or bad people. It's happening to people that end up significantly out of balance. So ashwagandha right now, I use it. My wife uses it. I would assume most of my staff uses it. That's on top of our support for our virus nutrients and all that kind of stuff. So the answer is whatever it takes and everything that it takes. One comment I do want to make in this is, I think an important thing that all of us need to recognize, if it gets a little scary, I want you to think what happens if you have a child. What do you do when your child's watching a scary movie and they get scared? You shut it off. You turn it. Yeah. And if and I'm serious when I say this, if you can't watch a scary movie before bed, you make sure you stop watching scary movies all day long too. So I love horror movies.
What? Oh no, I hate horror movies.
My wife won't even she'll leave the room immediately.
Immediately. Kelly, I'm with you. I'm leaving the room.
There's leaving it. Blood. And I'm like, what dumbasses, get go behind the house. And then when it's over, I'm like, whatever.
No.
If you know your energy and that energy doesn't serve you, listen, that's the same energy of all the fear and all that stuff. So no matter how real or unreal it is, remember, that's really just this false precept that we put behind it. But no matter what it is, we only got now. So if you know the scary movie, the horror movie doesn't serve you, neither does all that stuff. And when it gets really, really important, the information will come find you. So turn the scary movie off. That is really going to help a lot of people that are being overwhelmed right now. Turn the scary movie off.
Yeah, I love that, because a lot of it we can't do anything about except worry or feel bad. And if we are sitting at home feeling bad, that's not actually helping the situation or ourselves or our family or anybody really, if there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, amen. And I think we've all been there, right? We've been there recently. But the beauty is, what's so cool about it, Karen, is if you shut the scary movie off for an hour or 6 hours or half a day, and you just get on with it, go, bye-bye. Yeah. That's what being present is. That's what living your life really is. So 100%. Ashwagandha, beautiful herb. If you find yourself really moving toward anxiousness and developing some anxiety, my favorite herb for that, I wish I could ask everyone again, favorite herb for that is kava.
Yeah.
Kava, again, works real fast, gets you out of that fight or flight. Works like a little bit of a muscle relaxer, kicks in 15 minutes and, be in the system for a couple hours and then it, wears off again, but often key to getting you out of that state of being. So those two right there, amongst all the other things we've always talked about, having a great tribe, having some gratitude in your life, getting a little exercise, man, moving your body, feeling good, going outside, get sunlight every day, get a little bit extra, natural vitamin D production, talking about getting rid of bad thoughts. We're blessed. We literally get to walk down to the beach. We look down and and every time I go there, I'm like, oh man, it just gives you this massive, there's this bigger part of the world. You look out at the ocean there and every time I do it, I'm like, wow, these little itty bitty thoughts of fear and concern that I have no place out here. They're just not worth it. Yeah.
And I think, as you said, we've all got something to be grateful for, right? We've all got lots to be grateful for, so much to be grateful for. You got a couple of other members of your tribe that are with me and Kelly and not a fan of horror movies.
Look at this little girl. Like, how could I have a bad day if, like,
Oh,
yeah.
very cute.
Singing there, yeah. Another benefit of animals that they can quickly get you present. That's like a gift. So that would be, I guess I can answer that way as well. So if you're overwhelmed, get yourself a little counterpart that learns how to live present every moment.
Mine is sitting right on my foot under my
Love it. I love
desk right now. Yeah, no, for sure. Awesome. All right, love that. Let's go. We've probably got time for a couple more questions. Do you have any recommendations for best herbs for the skin?
Yeah, best herbs, especially when you talk about best herbs. So when we talk about skin health in general, collagen, phenomenal. The full enzyme vitamin C that we're talking about. So again, this would not be ascorbic acid. It isn't necessarily going to do much for the skin, but the full enzyme, something that has what's called the Rutin factor. It won't be on the bottle, but that's really what vitamin J, vitamin P. Those are the things that help bind the collagen in the skin. So over time, that's what we lose is vitamin C, and then our skin ages. So a full enzyme vitamin C, we use something called Cataplex C, which everyone is probably already taking because they're on the vitamin C, D, and zinc protocol because of this thing that's going around. But you can use that. That'll make your skin more robust or make it a little stronger. My favorite herb, though, Karen, hands down, is something called Gotu Kola.
Okay.
This is essentially like we kind of call it Botox in a bottle. You don't need a high dosage, but you need a steady dosage. So using one twice a day, and you could ramp it up. And there are certain scenarios I do it. If someone has had a surgery, especially, I'll see a lot of people that have elective surgeries for one reason or another, and I'll use Gotu Kola because it'll help diffuse how much scar tissue is created. And this is pretty, especially, like in elective surgeries, we don't want a lot of scar tissue. So this will inhibit the amount. I'll do it in like someone that has tendonitis. I'll do it in someone that has an Achilles tear, like plantar fasciitis. So anything with a dermatome, the soft tissue has been damaged, Gotu Kola is amazing for. You literally got, we can use it for, to some degree, if you get bit by a dog, it's not going to necessarily be the part that's going to heal up all the tissue there, but it's going to bind that tissue to make it stronger down the road. So absolutely love that herb. In the event, so I'm kind of like taking this another step here, in the event that you do have surgery, regardless, well, elective or not elective, like you didn't elect to have an ACL repair or something like that, or, whatever, an organ removed. If you anything cuts your skin, you now have damaged tissue, and your body always perceives that as an invasion, as a trauma to the body. And I'll always add something called Dermatrophin PMG. And that's very specific for the dermatome. And you just take 2 before they go to bed on an empty stomach. So those things right there, always a lot of collagen. Put that in your coffee. That's always a fun place to put it. The Cataplex C, the Gotu Kola, and then the Dermatrophin PMG. That right there is a super, super, super like solid protocol for improving skin health. I'll tell you just a little side note. And when your adrenals are really toast, like you've just pushed it, which I've done, and you'll do things like you'll cut easier, you're going to bruise easier as well. Like little scratches, like the dog scratching and stuff like that. You're just going to scratch easier because when you're under stress, your body dumps your vitamin C literally at twice the rate. And your adrenal glands store about 50% of all the vitamin C in the human body. And that is why it's so important to keep them healthy and making sure you're always restoring them there. So there was a time when I was training in the martial arts, and literally every time I get punched, I'd cut. Okay. And it wasn't because it hurt, it's because I was literally like in adrenal fatigue. I had no business being in there anyways, but it started to show up and my skin was getting weaker. So these are real things. And so earlier, I think I talked about, someone asked about the menopause, and I mentioned a product called Drenamin. To this day, I still use Drenamin every day because 50% of that Drenamin is the Cataplex C. So I'm supporting the adrenals with the vitamin C. So that strategy for skin is right on point. So I'd say the other part, just the lifestyle stuff, make sure you're taking care of your adrenals if you want to heal up your skin.
Yeah. And with those, like if you know that you've got a surgery coming up, do you want to take some of those beforehand coming up, or is that an after surgery thing?
Yeah, I'm always a fan of having a plan and a strategy, putting it into play for getting into the game and the surgery, or getting into the fight. So 100%, Karen, that's a great question. So, preparing for it. So, I have a client today, that's what we talked about, the strategy to go get into that battle. And then and right afterwards, again, right back into that healing.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Well, I think that is most of our questions, and we are out of time. So let's move into our last question, which is, sorry. Our last question is, what is one action that our listeners can take from our show today to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman?
So, and I just mentioned, it's going to be turn off the scary movie. I think it's important for us all right now to literally take a break.
Yeah.
Get back, turn off the scary movie. That's it. Just turn.
You and me included, we could sometimes maybe turn off the scary movie.
I turned it off most of the weekend. I turned it off from Friday.
Yeah.
So Fridays, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it was just, man, it was a breath of fresh air. Yeah. So turn off the scary movie, let it go. Especially if you know that your energy, like if you don't like horror films, out there right now is like a horror film. So it's for you. Let someone else interpret it and tell you the details.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We will be back same place, same time next week for another episode of the Health Made Simple show.
Yes, absolutely. And once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Appreciate and love you all. And of course, we can take deliberate action for our mind, for our body, overall wellness, and y'all be awesome.